Hey everyone, it's Anthony again today. Instead of doing just a review on a trail, I figured I'd come out to my local trail here just because the day is so beautiful. The component review that I want to do today, which I think is really beneficial for a lot of people out there thinking about it, is this review on the Sram Eagle Xx1 Groupset. This is the cross-country XC version, not the X01 Enduro downhill version. It's clearly noticeable because of the gold color as opposed to it being all black. I do have the entire group set that includes the trigger, the cranks, the chain ring, the cassette, the rear mech, and the bottom bracket. So the reason I'm doing this review is because I do have this on a Yeti SB66. Most of the bikes that come with the Sram Eagle XX1 nowadays is going to be on higher end model bikes, 650Bs, 29ers. There were some concerns on the length of the rear mech on a bike that has a low bottom bracket. The BB on this bike is exceptionally low. When you measure it just straight up, I'd say that the bottom bracket is about maybe 13 inches. It's not uncommon if you run the bike really soft to be in the parking lot and just kind of fool around the parking lot, and if you try to go for a hard corner, to actually drag your pedals on the actual asphalt itself. The one-up components is really nice because it comes with a little bit of a spacer that you put in, so there is no clearance problem when you're going up and down any gear in the cassette. You know, for most people, they'll say that you don't need it because the 50 tooth is just overkill no matter where you ride. I will say for myself, you know, I'll be the first one to admit that I'm actually a very weak peddler. So I ride with a lot of guys and girls and old and young, and they just all pedal better than me. For someone like me, this Eagle group set is amazing because this 50 tooth chain ring is something that does help me out, especially on really hard punchy climbs when I don't have the gas for it. The derailleur has actually never been a problem despite how low my bottom bracket is. Like I said, the bottom bracket sits about 13 inches, but when you sit on it, it sits really low. But I've never had a problem with the length of the chainstay. Sram did a great job in actually making this rear mech actually come forward a little bit when it fully extends and not down. The reason I got the XX1 Eagle versus the X01 is really, quite honestly, because I just thought the X01 is overkill, and let's be honest, the Eagle gold on the Eagle looks pretty sweet. The only difference from my understanding is that the cranks are actually hollow carbon versus the X01s, which have like a lattice carbon foam interior, so they're not completely hollow, which makes them a little bit stronger. The one thing that's noticeably amazing when you're actually riding this is really how quiet it is. With the lawnmower in the back, you can't really hear it, but when you're actually pedaling, you don't really hear anything other than the woods. You know, when you shift, the shifting is exceptionally crisp. You know, just like on the videos when you do your research and look online, you know, that quiet shifting is exactly what you see. So, you know, it doesn't change. You know, the upshifting is great, the downshifting is great, you know. For this group set, the first thing that you're gonna notice when you ride this is you're gonna notice the tactile feel of the actual trigger. So if anyone is used to riding a Shimano group set, the best way that I can compare this to a Shimano is that the trigger on this XX1 Eagle is definitely more exact. And what I mean by that is that tactile feel is very crisp and clean. Not that the Shimano one is sluggish at all, but it's very exact. The one thing that I do like, if you can see on this, Shimano, if anyone else is familiar, you can actually use your pointer finger to actually shift along with your thumb, but for the Sram shifters, you use your thumb for both. It's actually incredibly comfortable, and it's very user-friendly. The next thing that you can really notice on this Xx1 Eagle group set is when you're actually going downhill, as you're shifting gears, it almost feels like you're not shifting gears at a point because it's so smooth. So I'll go down a trail like this that's a little bit quick, and I'll shift through gears and you don't even hear it. It's just so smooth, so quiet. There's no creaks, nothing. Has a very good feel. Excuse me. I'm sorry. The one thing that I would say could probably be better, and this is just an honest review, is that boost spacing would definitely help. And I say that because it's not that the shifting is not crisp, because it is, but there definitely is an element that people talk about, which is if you have boost spacing on your rear hub or on your bike generally, that you could feel an even crisper shift. I'm sorry. Speaking of the bottom bracket, it is exceptionally smooth. It's just a ceramic bearing, non-carbon. I don't think it's carbon at least, but it's super smooth, super quiet. Very reliable. It doesn't really look bad, but let me see if I can give you an idea of what the kind of chunkiness is like. I don't know if you can see it, but you know, the rocks are pretty steep when you're looking at it from a downhill standpoint. It does get pretty techy on certain spots. This isn't anything like, you know, Pisgah or the Shed or anything like that, but there are bits around here that tend to be pretty steep. But having said that, like I said, the derailleur never seems to have a problem. You know, I don't know that many people are running an Eagle on a 26-inch bike anymore, but I am. I'm a fan of the 26. Having said that, you know, the Sram Eagle does work great with the 26-inch bike, even if you have a low-hanging bottom bracket as low as an SB66. I don't think by buying a Sram Eagle or any high-end group set that by default is going to make your pedaling better. I don't think that's how it works, to be honest. I think a lot of it is going to have to come down to your personal fitness and how much you just spend time on your bike. But having said that, the one thing that I have noticed is that expensive parts on a bike, for me, in my view, especially like a group set, tend to be something like the best way I can explain it is like owning a $400,000 car. That's a manual transmission. When you get the car, if you don't know how to drive stick, you're just going to chew up all the gears and break it. And I think unless you know how to drive a manual and get really good with the feel, get acclimated with the car, I think a group set is the same way. If you just sit there and smash, put all your power down on the group set, I think the durability is going to get called into question, and the durability is going to run down a little bit, just like everything else. So I think the smoothness of the shifting ultimately does come down to your ability as a rider to shift well. I think that's really important. You know, I know, like, for example, on the EWS Pro Circuit and downhill circuits and stuff like that, you know, riders will often say that they don't really care about that. They just put all their power down on every gear and they're just trying to get through the gears and blast through them. And that makes sense because they're sponsored and they can get more of these parts everywhere. But for people that don't have a ton of money like myself, you can't go through cranks and cassettes and rear mechs and shifters after every ride. So I think it does really matter on how you shift and practicing your shifting. In that sense, I would say that, you know, having a beginner level bike to practice all these fundamentals is really important before you invest in, you know, buying a mountain bike that's, you know, X thousands of dollars. But that's just my 2 cents. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know. Always willing to do a bike review if anyone cares, or a bike check rather. Feel free to leave a comment and subscribe. Thanks.